Are you suffering? Would you like to have hope? Would you like to have a reliable source of peace that can help you weather the storm? Jesus said, "Come unto me, you who are weary and weak, and I will give you rest, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Jesus understands suffering because he entered into the world. He got dust on his feet. He wiped sweat from his brow. He said, "How long must I put up with you people?" He was persecuted by the power players of the day, the Jewish leaders and the Roman leaders. He was mocked. He was flogged with a cat of nine tails, a whip that has little metal or bone fragments on the end of it, and the purpose of that is to basically shred the skin that it comes into contact with. And so it like shreds the skin into ribbons, kind of like if you put a paper in a shredder, it shreds it. And then after he was flogged, he was nailed to a cross. Now, you might say, well, that's too bad for him, except for the kind of disturbing thing that happens over and over again in the New Testament accounts, which sets Jesus apart from any other so-called good religious teacher or wise instructor. Jesus predicted that this was going to happen over and over and over again. In every single gospel account, he said, the Son of Man is going to be crucified. He's going to be betrayed. He's going to be handed over to the Romans. He's going to be mocked. But then he also said he's going to be raised again the third day. Let's consider the claims that atheists make. They say, it's just a blind universe. It's just cold and it's hard. It doesn't have a will. It doesn't have a way. That's just the way that it is. In other words, there isn't any hope. The only expectation is just more blindness and more coldness and more suffering without an end, without a purpose, without a goal. Islam claims that, and Muhammad claims, well, you're suffering because you're not obeying God, and so you need to try harder. You need to be better, and when you're better, then things will get better. So in other words, the entire burden is on you. You have to be good enough. Jesus, do you think that you can be good enough? Has that worked for you? Buddha actually abandoned his family in his quest for enlightenment, and he actually came to the conclusion that suffering doesn't actually exist. And so we live in a world of sickness and brokenness and evil men and poverty and loneliness and emptiness. Do you want to adopt a worldview that says that your experience actually isn't true and the experience of millions of people around you is actually a lie? Jesus gives a different message. He says, suffering's real, but I understand suffering because I entered into it with you. Now, if you think about God, like he could just allow suffering and just sit on his throne and be like, oh, they're suffering. But that's not what Jesus did. Jesus put on flesh, and he, like he said, he got his feet dirty. He walked with us. He walked the road. He dealt with the wicked leaders of our time, and he experienced persecution and death But he said there was a reason behind it. He was bearing our transgressions. And he also gave hope and said, on the third day I will rise. In other words, it's not the end of the story. Okay, yes, there's suffering, but that suffering doesn't last forever. For those who believe in me, I will give them the right to become children of God, and they will have access to eternal life. They will be able to fulfill what they were created for, to know God, to serve him, to enjoy his presence forevermore. I want to suggest to you that there is a purpose and there is a comfort behind suffering in Christianity that just does not exist in any other religion, philosophy, or worldview. Come to me, all you who are weak and weary, and I will give you rest, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light.